So the main event, UFC Fight Night 216, we get Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland. Now, this is a good fight, man. Both of these guys show up to fight. Both of them are going to bring it. Both of them were like this close to making things happen. We've got Jared Cannonier, who's just coming off fighting for the title against Israel Adesanya. We have Sean Strickland, who's just coming off that knockout loss to the current champ, Alex Pereira. I mean, you could imagine if he would have come out with the victory in that one, where he would have been, seeing as how that fight that we just saw between Adesanya and Pereira. Man, both of these guys are at the very top of the division. You know they both want to get back into their winning ways. This fight is going to be fire for as long as it lasts. And that being said, before I even jump out there and say who I think is going to win the fight, I'm not even sure that this one's going to go 5 rounds. Right? When you think about what both of these men bring to the table, you think both of them, how motivated they're going to be. You think about how styles make fights and how this one's going to match up. Should be good from start to finish. Now, let me start out talking a little bit about Sean Strickland. When you think about him, the very first thing that comes to my mind when I analyze this man as a fighter is pressure. He is all about pressure, to the point where he actually goes in there and walks forward at times. Like, he does not want to take a backward step. He does not want to stand still and plant his feet. Now, if he has to, he will, and he can do it well. We've seen him at times be able to stand there, pick shots off, play the countering game. We've seen him at times when he'll get backed up, he will pick shots off and he will attempt to counter. But nobody really can make him do that for long. He's just got this will. He's just got this aggression. He just wants to come forward at all times. He even does so to the point of his own detriment, in the sense that he was able to get set up for that shot when he got caught with that nasty left hook and knocked out in his last fight. We've seen him time and time again just follow guys around and not even cut off the octagon. We've heard his corner yelling to him from the side, "Cut him off, Sean. Cut him off. There you go. Good job." Because he's not even cutting guys off. He's just following around because he's so focused on I want to apply this pressure. I want to have this work rate. I want to do this damage. I want to break the will of the man who's standing across from me. I mean, think about Sean Strickland. Think about, I mean, if we're not talking about his fighting style, the first thing that has to come to our mind is when we hear him in these interviews, right? The man's a maniac. Right, but one of the things that I love about him is that he's 100% himself. You like him, you love him, you can't stand him, you hate him, you think he's a clown. It doesn't matter. The one thing that you have to admit is that he's authentic. The man is 100% himself. Personally, I think you have to love him because of that. There's far too many people out there wearing masks. Far too many people who walked amongst us not being their true selves. And the world would absolutely be a better place if every single person amongst us was just their true authentic self and they weren't hiding anything. So when you see somebody who is, I think you got to take your hat off to him. That's Sean Strickland. The man is 100% himself. So it's easy to look at all these interviews and see all the crazy stuff he says. He talks about, oh, I'm saying things that everybody says, that everybody thinks, but they're just not going to say it when the camera's on. They're not going to say it out loud. But above and beyond all that, right? You take all that to the side. The only reason he has those cameras in his face, the only reason people want to hear what he says, the only reason we're talking about him now is because the man knows how to fight. He just wants to go out there and be a bully and get it done. You know, you hear about what he's doing in these training camps. In a way, he's kind of like a nomad. He's a Ronin. He's running around in Southern California, all over the place, gym to gym, getting as many sparring partners as he can, just top-level guys, doing everything in his power, fighting glory kickboxing champions just all over the place. He wants to go in there. He wants to throw hands. He wants to beat you up. He wants to hurt his opponent. And he's good at it. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be able to do it to everybody. He's been able to do it to most people. He can do it to most people. Is he going to be able to do it to Jared Cannonier? See, here's the thing about Jared Cannonier. Very strong, very physical. Thing that stands out to me about Jared Cannonier, besides that power, besides that physicality, besides the fact that he was at these much bigger weights and dropping down and all of those things, besides all of that, it's those leg kicks. Dude, those leg kicks are nasty. He knows how to use them. He's got a good ring IQ. He trains with a good team, and he brings out these leg kicks, man. Those coming to the outside, he comes down low with them, and he just throws them in there. Now, they don't always get the job done. You think about Rob Whittaker. He went into that fight with Whittaker, and you know he was throwing that leg kick. That was a big part of the plan, and it was because he needed to slow down the movement. Because that's what Cannonier has trouble with. You think about those 2 losses he's got. We're looking at Robert Whittaker. We're looking at Israel Adesanya. Both of those men not only have great movement, but they know how to keep the distance with that movement. right? They know how to use the jab, or they know how to use low kicks. They know how to use these attacks from the outside that, coupled with their movement, make them very elusive, very hard to get to, very hard to land clean shots on. And that's what we saw with Cannonier. In both of those fights, they looked slightly differently, but it was the same result was the end, in the sense that Cannonier wasn't able to get off on either man. And it's because they control distance too well. Their footwork's too good. They're able to work with the jab, get out on angles. They're never right in front of their opponent waiting to be found. That's what Cannonier's got trouble with. He tries to use the leg kicks to slow guys down. He tried to use that those chop in with those leg kicks to keep his opponent in front of him. And even though he's landing them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work, in the sense that they'll slow the man down and keep him there. Sean Strickland doesn't need to be slowed down if you're trying to find him. You know exactly where he's going to be. He's going to be right in front of you all the time. And that's the thing about this fight. So you look and you think, well, Robert Whittaker was able to control the distance against Jared Cannonier with the jab. Israel Adesanya was able to control the distance, rack up points, score damage, and completely throw Jared Cannonier off his game, not allow him to get started, not allow him to get in a rhythm. All of those things. We saw all of that happen when the Robert Whittaker fight. We saw all of it happen in the Israel Adesanya fight. So then we look at Strickland and we think he's got an awesome jab. He's got a great work rate. He's a guy who will come in, he's walking, and all of a sudden he'll explode and close that distance and come in with big straight shots. That sounds like the exact thing that's going to keep Jared Cannonier from being able to get started. It sounds like the thing that'll keep him off his square, just kind of keep him on the back foot, stay getting backed up. Yeah, you tell me you think that's going to happen? I believe that. That's possible, for sure. Definitely a possibility. But here's the other thing. Think about the way that Jared Cannonier has that power. You think about the way that Sean Strickland is always right there, able to be found. The only people that Jared Cannonier hasn't been able to beat are people who are not there to be found. See, that's the thing about Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. It's not that they work the jab, it's that they work the jab in conjunction with their footwork. They weren't there to be found for the counter shots. When the return heat was coming, when Cannonier wanted to fire back, those guys weren't there to be found. They weren't the recipients of those hard shots. They weren't the recipients of the physicality that Cannonier wanted to bring. So when you think about Cannonier landing those leg kicks against Strickland because he's there to be found, you think about him coming over the top with that right hand when Strickland wants to shoot that jab, which he's going to do. You think about when he wants to go to the body on his own. Look, I think this is going to be a dog fight, man. Both of these guys are going to be bringing it. They're going to be throwing hard leather from the beginning. But I think Cannonier's going to be able to get off. I think he'll be able to land those leg kicks. I think that'll slow down Strickland a little bit. I think he's going to be able to get off some of his counters, and he'll be able to land. Both men are going to land hard shots. Both men are going to land clean, because neither one of them are defensive gurus. But I think Cannonier grew from that Whittaker fight because Gastelum's got movement, but he was able to defeat him. Mike Gastelum doesn't have the type of movement that I think that we see from Whittaker, definitely not from Adesanya. But I thought that we saw a growth from Cannonier in that fight with Gastelum, which came after the loss to Whittaker. Right? I thought that he was able to be a little bit more calm and a little bit more cool when we were seeing Gastelum try to bounce around and close the distance and get off with combinations and things like that. We saw him able to land good shots. We saw him able to back Gastelum up at times, and in a way that showed a lot to me. He's not going to have to deal with any of that movement. He's not going to have to deal with any of that slipperiness and that trickiness from Sean Strickland. Dude, he doesn't even move his head. He doesn't even use upper body movement. That's not Sean Strickland's game, right? He's all about standing right in front of you, trying to pick off as many shots as he can, just slight, tiny little movements here and there, and he's all about trying to get off. But the thing is, you can also trick him a little bit, right? We saw that the way in his last fight that Alex Player was constantly turning him. We saw eventually that Sean Strickland was starting to reach with that right hand because he's trying to stuff that jab. When you reach with that right hand is when you can come behind it with the left hook. Lights out. Right? So there's flaws in his game. We've seen him get caught with a lot of shots before, but he's tough. He's got a chin. Is Cannonier going to be able to get him out of there? Maybe. Over the course of 5 rounds, it's a lot, and those shots add up, and we saw, and Strickland's been getting hit a lot. This dude, supposedly, he spars all the times, which means he's taking a lot of punishment there. He's coming off with a loss, with the devastating knockout loss in July. And even though you think that's a lot of time to heal up, and that may be true, at the same time, we've seen guys, theoretically, in theory, these are just stories and stuff that are out there. It's not like we can prove it, but think about the fight with Stipe. Stipe takes his fight with Ngannou, takes the first one, eats all his shots, he's able to withstand it, comes out with the win. Then he goes into that fight with DC, the very next fight. And DC's able to drop him with that little right hand that he snuck in coming out of the clinch. Now, normally that's a shot that wouldn't drop Stipe. DC even said it himself. I hit guys with that in the gym all the time. Doesn't even hurt him, but I hit Stipe with it and he dropped. And there was a lot of speculation that the reason Stipe dropped from that shot was because he was weakened. The accumulation of the shots that he had taken in the previous fight with Francis Ngannou. Going into the rematch with Daniel Cormier, everyone was like, now he's going to have better punch resistance. Things like that aren't going to happen. It was one of the talking points for why you thought Stipe may win, which he ended up doing. We saw that Cormier wasn't able to hurt him in that fight as well. So, how do I relate all that back to this? Is Sean Strickland going to have any weakened punch resistance going into this fight because of the shots that he just took in his last one when he got dropped and stopped? Now, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that Cannonier is strong, man, and I do know that he is powerful, and I know that he punches hard and he can hurt guys. I know that those leg kicks are hard. I know that if at any point those leg kicks are to slow down Sean Strickland, stop him from being able to apply all the aggression and all the pressure and that high work rate that he wants, man, in some ways, he'll be a little bit of a sitting duck then. So this one will be interesting to see. I think it'll be highly entertaining. Again, I think it's going to be a very close fight. There is a path to victory for either man that they could implement, no doubt about it. I think the odds reflect that, right? It's very, very close. But I think Jared Cannonier is going to be able to come up with the victory in this one. I think that because Sean Strickland is in front of him, I think the guys that are in front of Jared Cannonier are going to find it very difficult to beat him, and I think that Cannonier is going to find a way to come out with the victory on this one. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think Sean Strickland's going to be able to come out there? Is it going to be that work rate and that pressure that's actually able to make the difference, push Jared Cannonier back, push him out of his comfort zone, and find a way for Sean Strickland to get the victory? Or are you looking at it the way I am, and it's going to be another win for Jared Cannonier, and where does he go after this one? Let me know what you guys think.